So, I wanted to spend a few minutes giving some very basic tips on overcoming trauma, disappointment, or actually this advice is particularly in response to some people I know who've experienced a bit of abuse from a narcissistic predator, and I want to give you some tools on how to deal with this. My background is an emotion code and body code practitioner. I've been doing that for quite a few years. Probably half of my clients are practitioners, and often they send me the tough cases. So a lot of my clients have dealt with some crazy stuff. But over the years, I've found a few things that can be super helpful. So one of the first things to do, when you experience abuse at the hands of a narcissistic predator type person, sometimes you go, how in the world did I fall for that? What, is unbelievable. And you feel bad. There's shame that comes, and their shame should not come, okay? But it does, right? So the first thing to realize is that you have to make sure that what happened doesn't have the ability to tell you what you're worth, okay? And to do that, you have to be very clear on that your value comes from God's unconditional love for you, okay? So, in the very basic, step one, set aside any guilt and shame. Step two, realize that to change your emotional health, that you should pay very close attention to your physiology, how you're standing, moving, breathing, that sort of thing. And so you can change your physiology to someone more powerful and happy, okay? Your physical body then will start providing biochemistry to support a powerful emotion. Typically what happens for people is they don't pay attention to their physiology, and when they have negative emotions, then they allow their physiology to come into alignment and agreement with the original negative emotion. And now you have the negative emotions and how you're standing, moving, breathing all coming in to conspire to this, right? So the next thing to understand is the basics on how to overcome disappointment, right? So you've gone through something. It really sucked. Like, ow, And the first thing you want to do is you're like, holy crap, I got to make sure this doesn't happen again, right? So what most people will do is they go, well, why, right? Because you think that if you understood why, then it would give you peace. Well, first of all, if you understood why, then you could not make that mistake in the future, and you could keep yourself safe. Also, unresolved disappointment, tends to occupy a place in your heart that faith is supposed to occupy. And so it creates this sticking point in your heart, and you have a hard time moving forward. And another reason people ask why is because I think if I understood why, then it would give me peace. That peace would heal my broken heart, and I can move forward. Very simple. However, unfortunately, it's fundamentally the wrong approach to overcome disappointment, okay? When you ask why, your brain is going to give you an answer, but it will not filter out the answers based on whether it's accurate, helpful. It will just bury you in a bunch of BS. And if you are a disciplined and intelligent person, typically you don't stop at asking why once. You will keep asking it over and over and over and over. And what it will do, it will rewire your brain for depression and anxiety. Okay, because you've trained your brain to look for the bad things and the shortcomings and to focus on the problem. Okay, so another important thing to understand is you don't ask why. There's other questions you ask. For example, what's the hidden gift in what happened? But there's no gift. Well, unless you want to be a victim, you will have to keep asking that question until you figure out a good answer. Here's a great example and a great resource. If you go on to Netflix and you look up "I'm Not Your Guru," it's a documentary about Tony Robbins. And in it, there's a particularly helpful scene. This young woman gets up. She looks a little worn out. She's like, I'm from Brazil. To come to this event, I had to sell all my furniture. My whole family, they think that I've got my act together and they rely on me. She goes, but I'm fundamentally broken. You see, she says, I grew up in a church that practiced ritualistic sexual abuse from a very young age, and it broke me. And Tony Robbins looks at her and he goes, so what's the gift in it? In that, yes, in that, what is the gift? You have to focus your brain on answering that question. Well, the next scene in the documentary is the next day, and she's back, and she stands up again, and she looks fundamentally different. And she stands up, and she goes, I realize what the gift is. She goes, I'm going to take what I went through, and I'm going to overcome it, and then I'm going to take what I learned in overcoming it. I'm going to help thousands of women overcome what they've gone through. There you go. So, one of the other things, a very simple technique I want to tell you is this. You have to be very, very careful of the memory of the event. You see, if you can remember what happened, remember and re-feel it, then much of your being thinks it happened again. And if you remember it again, it happened again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And you wonder why you have such a hard time recovering from it is because it didn't happen once. The impact of it happened over and over and over and over. So I want to talk a bit about the concept of time travel. I propose that you're able to travel through time much better than you think. And if you use your God-given imagination and emotion to time travel, you can go fix some things. And I think the potential of that is much greater than we think. There was a young man, not young, he was middle-aged, and he heard about this concept. He was quite interested because when he was a young boy, he had jumped off a swing, and when he landed funny, and it messed up his right hip and messed up his back, and he had 40 years worth of back pain. Well, he decided he was going to revisit, reframe, reshape this event. And again, you do it with strong imagination and emotion. So he reimagined this day that he hurt himself. And this time when he reimagined it that he stuck the landing like a freaking Olympic gold medal winning performance, and we beat the Russians and team, whatever, something like that. And he reimagined it over and over and over and over. And all of the pain associated with that time many years before was completely gone. So again, strong detail and emotion. And I want to give you a few examples because this is a freaky powerful thing to do, okay? I did this with my mother. You see, my mother, who's 88 now, she never had a close relationship with her mom. And one day her mother came to visit her at college. And her mother wasn't feeling well. Her mother was an intellectual, a very smart woman with her master's degree at a time when women didn't even go to college, but not kind and no strong connection, which, if you don't know, it's like oxygen for people is connection, especially with your parents. And her mother came to visit her at college, and she wasn't feeling well, so she told her mom, we'll just take a nap. And they never did anything together that day. And very soon afterwards, her mother and her sister were killed by a drunk driver. Her brother was driving the car. And at the funeral, the casket was closed, and they told her, well, she wasn't injured, she died of a heart attack. And my mom decided that the reason the casket was closed was probably because her mother didn't have a nice dress to wear. So I encouraged her to revisit the day. And it was during a visit, and before I left, she goes, would you like to know what actually happened the last day I saw my mom? Yeah, tell me, what happened? She goes, we had a tea party in the botanical gardens down by the river. It was me and my mom and my sister and my stepmom. Her dad married her dead mom's sister, and she didn't get along with her either. And we had a butler serving us beautiful Persian rug, fine china and silverware. And we were all dressed in these beautiful dresses as if we're cast members of Downton Abbey. And we had a long afternoon of deep and intimate conversation and connection. And that's the last day I saw my mom. And it's been very healing. Months later, she told me, she goes, oh, I'm talking to her on the phone. She goes, oh, I'm working on it with my dad. I go, yeah, tell me. She goes, well, I'm taking him out to lunch. And she could tell you the bow tie, the restaurant, everything. Again, strong detail, strong emotion. And she goes, over lunch, my father's asking me my opinion on some very important things. Why? Because he respects my opinion. And she goes, you see, I never thought my father respected me, but he does today. So I want to give you a couple other examples. Again, this is freaky powerful if you really do it. Strong detail and emotion. I had a woman in my business, my coaching practice. She's always so happy. Just always nice to see her. Always hi. But this day she came to a session and she's like, ah. I'm like, whoa, what's going on today? She goes, my boss, that asshole. I go, whoa, what happened? She goes, he gave me bad performance review. And I go, what's the deal with that? She goes, number one, it's not true. She goes, I do an amazing job at my job. Number two, he's never around. He has no basis to give me any performance review, let alone a bad one. I'm like, that's horrible. I go, we'll fix this immediately. She goes, really? I go, watch this. I go, in your imagination with strong detail and motion, you're back in his office. She goes, I can see myself there. And he's sitting across the desk from you. We're like wearing a coat and tie. She goes, yep. He's giving this performance review and you're getting more and more pissed. You're like, oh yeah, really, really angry. She goes, then he's done and he stands up to let you out of the office. But when he stands up to let you out of the office, you notice he's not wearing any pants. He's wearing boxers, white boxers with pink bunny rabbits on it. And she starts giggling. I go, you realize he's left the house today not knowing he's not wearing pants. He's at work. He doesn't know he's not wearing pants. He's probably going to be checked into an institution this afternoon. She starts laughing to herself. I go, so what about this performance review? What do you think about it? She goes, who cares, right? Another client of mine, she had when she got married, her husband, he disconnected emotionally. He just wasn't there. He didn't cheat on her or anything, wasn't especially abusive, but just there was no connection and love in her marriage. And she went on a business trip, and while she was out for drinks with her friends, she met a man. And the way he looked and the way he treated her, her entire being was like, this guy is the one who will make me happy. This is the only thing that will really satisfy my heart. Now, the interesting thing is, that very night, her husband had a dream. And in the dream, God told him, the way you have been treating your wife has made her vulnerable. And she's beautiful, successful, talented. He's a stone cold idiot. When she gets home, her husband's a changed man. Okay. But she goes, Steve, I can't remember this. I can't forget this other guy. And I told her about this technique. She texted me later that day. She goes, solved. She goes, I reimagined this guy, and in my imagination this time, he's dressed up like Barney, the purple children's dinosaur. She goes, done. She goes, I promise you one thing, Barney is not sexy, and my brain does not connect that event or that guy anymore to anything that would make me happy. Another one of my coaching clients, she had a tough life. Her life, especially her entrance into the world, was an issue. You see, her mother didn't want to be pregnant. Her parents had a lot of conflict in their marriage during the pregnancy. Her father certainly didn't want a girl. You know what I'm saying? He's like, where's my son, right? The birth was quite traumatic, traumatic cesarean. Everything about her entrance into the world was not warm, welcoming, and affirming. I told her about this, and she did an amazing job. She recorded it and sent it to me. And she sends me this recording, and in the recording, she's like, would you like to know what actually happened the day I was born? She goes, you see, it was a beautiful vaginal birth. There were angels in attendance, and my father was there saying, it's my baby girl, it's my baby girl. And she goes, and that's the day I was born. So I encourage you to do whatever it takes so that the memory of the event no longer can hit the play button and redo it. Okay. Also, I'm going to I'm going to post this on YouTube as a resource, and in the description section, I'm going to leave an audio file. Okay, and it's an interesting audio file, and it's designed to disconnect trauma from your brain. Okay. What you'll do is you can think of the event while you're listening to it with headphones, and it will be a very annoying audio, but what it does is it separates the memory trauma connection, right? And so if you remember it, it can't connect to pain and trauma in your brain anymore. I had a friend of mine give this to me as an asset when I was looking for some things to help my sister whose husband had tragically died. And she said, I use this because I had some major PTSD because I saw a young girl break her, it was a leg or wrist or something really, really severely. And it caused me massive PTSD because it's something exactly like that had happened to me. She goes, Steve, I listened to this audio twice and it killed any PTSD. It wouldn't connect to pain. I could remember it, but there was no longer that pain connection. So that's another resource for you. Anyways, hope this has been helpful. To review, number 1, don't put shame on yourself. Number 2, ask the right questions. What's the gift in it? How is this going to make me better and stronger? Number 3, pay very close attention to your physiology, how you're standing, moving, breathing. That's the fastest way to change your emotions. Number 4, revisit, reimagine, reframe, reshape the memory using strong detail and emotion so it can no longer impact you in a harmful way. And hope this all helps.